Hey everybody, it's Galmadex and welcome back to another Tinkerer's Cube draft. This will be my 4th draft video and my 11th draft overall if you count all the ones I did on Twitch and just on my free time. So you could say I'm having a pretty fun time with this cube. It just gives you both the cube experience of powerful constructed level gameplay alongside more synergistic, more interesting decks a lot of the time. Just a little ironic seeing as I have drafted mono red a ton as you've seen in the videos, but I do really like seeing all of the combo-y interesting synergistic decks that are going around. So we have several really good cards to start with here. Ajani's Pridemate is one of the premier cards for the Lifegain decks. All of them are white-based. The best one would be white-black Lifegain. There are a lot of payoffs in white-black for the Lifegain decks. Ajani's Pridemate just seems like the strongest aggressive payoff for that strategy, so I might scoop that up here, see if we can get on that. But there are several really good cards for Mono Red. I think Rimrock Knight would be my favorite. It's very close with Soulscar Mage. Being able to turn any of your instant speed and sorcery-based damaging spells into permanent debuffs is really powerful. You can also even like turn Shock into an instant speed combat trick because you're giving whatever you're dealing 2 damage to -2/-2 instead of just dealing 2 damage to it. So instant speed damaging spells are incredibly good with Soulscar Mage. Alright, what do we have here? Looks like no life gain in this pack, so no really easy follow-up to Ajani's Pridemate. We do have Ardenvale Tactician, which is a pretty fine card to follow up with the Pridemate for just staying in white and having just a nice aggressive creature. It can tap down 2 cards with Dizzying Swoop on the defensive, or at its best on the aggressive, tapping down 2 of their blockers is really nice. And then of course it's just a 2/3 flyer. White-black would be the color scheme that we'd try to get in for the Lifegain deck, so Gonti would be a super solid pick here just because we'd be likely to be in black if we're playing the Ajani's Pridemate, and Deadweight would be fine as well, just cheap removal. Doesn't kill everything, doesn't actually kill a lot of stuff, but it is really cheap, so it makes up for it there. A couple cards for white-blue flyers and a card for Simic Proliferate, but I don't think we're taking any of that. And then there's also, of course, the Mill card, the Patient Rebuilding, but I don't really, not feeling Mill today. That is a strategy you can definitely try to do, though. Definitely at its best in blue-black, but there's tons of just mono-blue Mill stuff, so you can be blue in really any other color if you can pick up just the Mill payoffs. So here we have Serra Ascendant, one of the strongest white life gain cards. It's a 1-mana 1/1 lifelink, so it gets on the board really quickly and starts gaining you 1 life every time you're attacking with it. So it's a really efficient way to trigger Ajani's Pridemate's ability. And if you can get to 30 or more life, this card's absolutely insane. 1 mana for a 6/6 flying lifelink is obviously absolutely busted. So I think it'll be Serra Ascendant here, but there's also Bloodthirsty Aerialist, which is basically a flying Ajani's Pridemate, getting a +1/+1 counter whenever we gain life in the sky. So this card's really good too, but I like the Serra Ascendant just a little bit better. Now what do we have? I'm not a massive fan of Griffin Airy because this is a lot more difficult to trigger than cards like Ajani's Pridemate. You have to gain specifically at least 3 life in 1 turn, and a lot of the little life gain payoffs in the set are stuff like 1/1 lifelinkers, and this card gains 2 life. Like, gaining 3 in 1 turn is definitely more of a hoop to jump through than most of the other cards. That being said, not a massive fan of Omen of the Sun either, and that would be the only other card that's specifically for life gain. Gustwalker's just a fine aggressive creature, and Helm of the Host, you can draft this relatively highly since it is completely colorless, and it does do bonkers stuff if you have the time to play it and equip it. So if you're not against a very aggressive deck, I think Helm of the Host is really good, but against the really aggressive decks, you are spending a ton of time to do this. You're basically tapping down all your mana on turn 4, and then tapping it all again on turn 5 before it does something. So it's very slow to set up, but obviously the ability to copy any creature you have every single turn can add up very quickly. So like if we put that on Gonti, that could be really cool. But yeah, we'll just take the Griffinary. As I said before, not the biggest fan of it, but it is still good in the strategy. This will be a pretty easy Danitha. I think she's pretty good, even if you're not in the lifelink deck. She's just got good stats. First Strike, Vigilance, and lifelink all together on the 2/2 body for 3. Pretty nice overall. And it'll be great with Johnny's Pridemate, and especially with the flying Johnny's Pridemate if that wheels as well. So, Erebos' Intervention is very nice here. 1 black and X mana for an instant. Target creature gets -X/-X until end of turn, and you gain X life. That is the main part we'll be using this most of the time, because it's really nice to be able to remove one of our opponent's creatures and gain a bunch of life, trigger our stuff like Griffinary, Pridemate, all of that good stuff, all in one fell swoop. But the fact that this also allows you to exile cards from graveyards is good as well, because there are some decks that will have things you want to exile, so having the versatility of having basically sideboard tech against those strategies in your main deck is really nice. So if we end up against like green-black Reanimator, we can ruin their day. I've definitely been on the other side of an Erebos' intervention in a green-black Reanimator deck, and it was not fun, so maybe now is when I get to turn the tables on that scenario. So I would like Isolated Chapel. I do really like the mana fixing cards. There are a lot of powerful like double black and double white cards that will end up in our deck most likely. So having the mana fixing is definitely very good. That being said, Dawn of Hope allowing us to pay 2 life anytime, or pay 2 mana anytime we gain a life, we get to draw a card. It's just really good. Also, if we get to the late game and we have the mana to dump out little lifelinking soldier tokens, it's decent there as well. But I really like just drawing a card every time we gain life, really fueling the card draw there. So, nothing like perfect for a life gain deck. Anything we're taking here would just be like the best card. I suppose Unbreakable Bond does return a creature from your grave to the battlefield with a lifelink counter on it, so there's some life gain there. I do like that card in general too, but it's not really the perfect strategy for it. Cartouche of Solidarity, giving first strike to whatever we enchant and spitting on a 1/1's nice. Blade Juggler drawing a card is nice. I don't know about the Shadow Cat. I think I'll just take Unbreakable Bond here. Now we can take a Mind Rack Harpy. It doesn't make the most sense in our deck because we are not really self-mill, but we could have a little bit of a self-mill sub-theme just in black alone. You don't have to necessarily be green and black to get value out of Mind Rack Harpy. As you can see with us having an Unbreakable Bond here, we've already got one card that sort of works with the Harpy. Pretty unlikely to play any of these. I guess I'll take Warrant and Warden because we could play it for a double white instant there. Trusty Retriever. It enters the battlefield as a 4-mana 3/4, or we get to return an artifact or enchantment from our graveyard to our hand. That's not bad. There is quite a bit of main deckable removal spells for artifacts and enchantments in this set. I did draft Green-White Enchantress one time, and it was the worst I've ever done in one of these drafts. I actually went 1-3 with that deck, and it was because basically every round that I lost, like my opponent was just like, just played like the 3-mana 2/1 that comes into play and destroys an artifact or enchantment. They'd play like Wilt, which is 2-mana instant speed, destroy an artifact or enchantment, and they get to cycle it for 2. They played Knight of Autumn, which just comes into play, destroys an artifact or enchantment. I feel like there's actually just tons of random ways to get rid of artifacts and enchantments in the format, so maybe Trusty Retriever can pick up our Griffinary or our Dawn of Hope if they get shot by something random like that. So it's not the worst like last pick there. I like Grim Dancer, 3 mana for a 3/3 Death Touch lifelinker or Menace lifelinker. In this deck, we're definitely always going to give it lifelink. That part is for sure. But the other ability could be interchangeable. 3 power lifelinkers are of course fantastic with Griffinary. They're one of the few ways we know we can consistently trigger that every single turn. And it's the only card in this pack that gains life outside of maybe Dreadhorde Invasion if we can make our zombie army a 6/6. At that point, whenever it attacks, it gains lifelink until end of turn, but that is going to take quite a while to set up. So don't love the Dreadhorde Invasion there. I do like the Godless Shrine, but hopefully that can wheel. And somebody will just take like Emissary or Plaguecraft or one of these other random white or black cards. Ooh, Blood Artisan seems sick. 2 mana for a 0/1. Whenever any creature dies, including the Blood Artist, including your opponent's creatures, you get to have your opponent lose 1 life and you gain 1 life, so I just like that card a lot. Mechagodzilla is pretty fine too, and you can run that in literally any deck, so this is one of those cards that's really nice in pack 1. You can take it somewhere between like pick 1 and pick 3 when you don't even know what strategies are open, because this can go into any deck. This could absolutely go into our deck, even though it's not exactly synergistic. It's just really good. And there's an argument that it is synergistic because it can randomly get lifelink, and then it would be another 3 power lifelinker, so that would be pretty good for that reason. We're just going to take Blood Artist. Okay. Lampad of Death's Vigil can sacrifice things to drain our opponent for life. Healer's Hawk can lifelink 1 damage every turn with flying, and Grey Merchant of Asphodel is 1 big life gain swing, and it drains all the life from our opponent. So if we have the ultimate curve, we play turn 3 Grim Dancer, turn 4 Gaunty, turn 5 Grey Merchant. That's 6 Devotion to Black. Really big life gain swing there. I do like the Grey Merchant a lot, but I also love the Healer's Hawk being able to trigger Pridemate every turn, even if they have a blocker, because of the flying, the sort of evasion there. I kind of think we still take Grey Merchant first, though, because we only need 1 more Devotion to Black than is in its mana cost to trigger like Griffinary with that. Plus, Grey Merchant with like Unbreakable Bond, bringing it back is nice. What do we have here? I guess just Unbreakable Formation. Another pack where we're not exactly taking something that goes perfectly with our strategy, we're just taking the strongest card, but you don't have to always take a super synergistic pick. You can also just take good cards in between. And this card is fantastic. If you cast this at sorcery speed, it is a 3 mana sorcery to put a +1/+1 counter on all of your creatures, give them vigilance and indestructible till end of turn. And obviously you don't have to play it as a sorcery. You can also use this at instant speed if your opponent tries to wipe your board. You can just save all your creatures with it, which is pretty good. Silver Smote Ghoul, another one of these life gain payoff cards. If we're gaining 3 or more life a turn, we can repeatedly bring this back from our grave. So pretty similar to Griffinary in where it's a little harder to trigger than stuff like a Johnny's Pridemate for sure, but it's a more powerful payoff in general. Actually, I don't know if I would say that. A Johnny's Pridemate is just busted. That card is just really, really good and really easy to trigger. But Silver Smote's Ghoul is definitely still good too. I like Falconwrath Noble here. It's Blood Artist's larger cousin. 4 mana for a 2/2 flyer, and whenever any creature dies, drain your opponent for 1 life. The same ability, just on a big old flyer instead. Other than that, we'd like maybe take Sky Tether, but it does look like we have a lot of creatures that'll just be attacking on the ground, so Sky Tether isn't the greatest removal for us. Sky Tether is really good if you're a deck that is only really attacking with flyers, but we are obviously not really that kind of deck here. So Sky Tether probably at the best in the white-blue flyers strategy. Alright, I like Splendor Mare. Again, 3 power lifelinkers are one of the best ways you have to gain 3 life a turn for Griffinary. And we can cycle it to put a lifelink counter on a different creature we control, which is just interesting. It's just nice to have the versatility. Throwing a lifelink counter on a Johnny's Pridemate seems insane, so maybe we can get that going. We have Gorging Vulture, which I really like that they put that in this cube because I do love to see the cards that have like a weird little bit of overlap between two strategies. Gorging Vulture most of the time is just at its best in the self-mill deck, the green-black self-mill deck, because you're throwing 4 of your cards in the grave. But it's actually fine in the life gain deck too, because you could easily gain 1 or 2 life off of this, trigger Johnny's Pridemate or Dawn of Hope or something. So that's certainly a viable pick, but I do want to make sure I pick up some mana fixing, so I am taking the Temple of Silence there first. Somebody did take the Godless Shrine out of this pack, so that makes me definitely happy that I picked up that Temple of Silence. Since I don't get to get the white-black duel here, I think Doom Dissenter's okay. Yeah, I like Doom Dissenter since we have Blood Artist and Falconwrath Noble. Creatures that die and replace themselves, so they die twice. Seem pretty fine. Order of Midnight, return a creature from our graveyard to our hand, or raise the alarm just for a couple little 1/1s. Kind of like the Order of Midnight. If our opponent removes our Johnny's Pridemate early, we'd like to have some ways to get it back, because that card is just fantastic, just really, really important payoff. Now we'll take the Lampad. Orzhov Enforcer's fine too, but I think Lampad fits into our theme a little better. How many enchantments do I have for Ephemia? I don't really think I have any, but at the same time, how many enchantments do I have for Core Spirit Dancer? I guess we're taking Ephemia. Ephemia is also a 2/1 flyer, even if you're never triggering Ephemia's ability, it's fine. Alright. Wow. Boros aggro is really open here. Even mono red, maybe? But Hellrider's, like, incredibly good. Maybe even the best red card in the set, definitely one of the best. The card's bonkers. 4 mana for a 3/3 haste, and whenever any of your creatures attack, you ping your opponent for a damage. Card is really, really, really strong. Alright, I guess we can take Charming Prince here. I do like Carnifex Demon. Having a big flying threat that can also just get rid of all your opponent's small creatures is nice. It does put -1/-1 counters onto all of your creatures as well, though. But Carnifex Demon has been pretty fun in some of my Golgari Reanimator decks for sure. Definitely take the Charming Prince here, though. 2 mana for a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, we can gain 3 life, trigger our Griffinary, trigger our Silver Smoke Ghoul, trigger Johnny's Pridemate, Dawn of Hope, anything like that. And it's got other options. If we don't have any of those cards on the board, we can just scry 2 instead to make sure that we're hitting playable cards instead of stuff that we don't need. So we have Heliod, the Sun-Crowned. Cartouche of Ambition is nice too, to give +1/+1 and lifelink to one of our creatures and a -1/-1 counter to one of theirs. Basilica Bellhaunt as well. Make our opponents discard a card and we gain 3 life. 3 life, of course, being the magic number. Basri's Acolyte. This pack's actually just loaded with stuff that we actually want. Heliod, Bellhaunt, and Basri's Acolyte. And Cartouche of Ambition's fine too. I think I'm going to take the Heliod here. Heliod is like a Johnny's Pridemate for all of your creatures. So whenever you gain life, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on whatever creature you want. So Heliod, pretty good in this strategy. Plus, you can pay 2 mana to give one of your creatures lifelink until end of turn. If you're having trouble getting enough lifelinkers on the board, you can just spend the extra mana that way to trigger your life gain cards. I like Leonin Vanguard in this deck. We do have a lot of creatures and a decent aggressive curve, and you do need that to trigger Leonin Vanguard's ability. You need 3 or more creatures on your field when you're entering combat, but if you have that, Leonin Vanguard will gain a life every turn when you head into combat. Definitely good with Pridemate and Heliod. Gravebreaker Lamia would maybe be the second most playable card for our deck here, just because 4-power lifelinker, but I guess the alternate effect we could use with our Unbreakable Bond as well. So that's pretty fine. I think I like Cub Warden more than I like Anointer Priest in this deck. Anointer Priest just gaining 1 life whenever a creature token comes into play. I don't think we have a ton of creature tokens. We've got the creature tokens on Dawn of Hope, but that's going to be really late in the game. We've got the creature token on Euphemia, maybe, but very rarely. Doomed Dissenter. Yeah, not a ton of creature tokens at all, so I don't think Anointer Priest is great here. I think Cub Warden is pretty awesome. Mutated out, and again, the magic number, 3 power with lifelink means we're gaining 3 life. Pretty solid. Okay, what do we have now? I like the All-Seed of Life's Bounty. A lot of our most... actually, 2 of our most important cards to keep on the field are going to be Ajani's Pridemate and Heliod the Suncrowned, and we can sacrifice this to protect either of them from whatever targeted removal our opponent has. With the sacrifice to gain protection ability, plus it's just got lifelink, so even when we don't need to sacrifice it, it is still giving us value by gaining us life every turn. Doomed Necromancer is not really for this strategy, definitely more for Golgari. But I'll take a Filigree Familiar, gain a couple life when it comes into play, draw a card when it dies. Super fine. Nothing really for our strategy here. We can take some dog tokens, or we can take a Brain Maggot to disrupt our opponent's strategy. Remove whatever their most important card in hand is until they can get rid of our Brain Maggot. I think I like that better than the Release the Dogs in this deck. Release the Dogs does have some very silly, very fun combos, but they're not things that we have here. So Release the Dogs is hilarious with like Divine Visitation, because that makes it so all of your tokens come to play as 4/4 angels instead. So if you cast Release the Dogs after you have that on the board, you just get 4/4/4 angels, which is just nuts. So here I'm taking Foreboding Fruit over the Reverent Hoplite, because I feel I'm a little heavier into black, and I don't have that much white devotion. Pretty much all of my white cards are only a single white. They're not double white. And with Foreboding Fruit, if I can cast this for Adamant, that would mean cast it for triple black. I get to create a food token when I do this, which I can sacrifice a food token to gain 3 life later in the game. And of course, as always, 3 life, the magic number for Griffinary. And for the same reason, we're taking the Bell Hunt pretty easily here. Definitely taking it over Sengir Vampire and Pride of Conquerors. Now we have just a Carrion Grub in our colors, but Carrion Grub not for our deck. We did wheel the Anointer Priest. If we do want to run that, we can. I like having the cycling lands. Just helps you not get flooded as easily in the late game. If you draw it in the early game, you take a little bit of a tempo swing by having to play a tapped land. But the value of drawing it into a late game and just being able to get rid of it is pretty nice. Okay, so I actually learned of a new tool for deck building on Arena during drafts here, which is pretty cool. And that is, when you're on this screen, I already knew this when I've been doing this all the time, you can sort by creature. So you see how your creature curve looks, and then your non-creature curve and all of that. But the other thing you can do now that they added, I don't know when they added this, is if you click on a color, you can see all of the cards in that color also sorted into your deck by mana cost. So we get to see just everything that's in our sideboard just by toggling the colors there. So like say we wanted to put blue in this deck, we could see what this deck would look like with blue in it, you know? It's a really cool thing. I'm probably going to start doing this every video, because it even like changes the lands, so you can see what the lands would look like as well. But yeah, that's really neat. I'm definitely going to end up using that a lot. So I think I'm going to take out the Trusty Retriever. Sure, it can get back the Griffinary, or the Dawn of Hope, but I just don't think it's doing a lot most of the time. That's like, yeah, there's literally like 2 cards I really want to bring back. I suppose I do have some enchantment creatures like Euphemia and Lampet of Death's Vigil, but I think I'll be probably cutting down some of those too. Get rid of that. I've got to make 9 more cuts here. I think I get rid of Unbreakable Bond. Sure, I am bringing something back with a lifelink counter on it, so I am getting a consistent way to gain life, but I don't feel I have any creatures that I want to bring back for like 5. Maybe like Grey Merchant. just because I might be overvaluing the Grey Merchant just because I had that one game with Bolas' Citadel on Grey Merchant and on Burial Rites on the Grey Merchant. That was awesome. But yeah, I don't think I need Unbreakable Bond here. And for the same reason, Mindrack Harpy just doesn't make a lot of sense here. We're not really getting any value for milling ourselves. I like the Black Bloom Rogue as a land and a playable, even though it doesn't synergize that much with our deck. It's just like similar to Secluded Steppe. If we draw this and we need it as a land in the early game, we take a little bit of a tempo hit, but we get that added value of if we draw it in the late game, well, now we didn't just top deck a land in a terrible spot, we've actually top decked at least a 2-3 menace. And if the game's gone really long, then we top decked a 5-3 menace. I honestly don't think Anointer Priest does much of anything here. We just do not have a lot of tokens, so I'm going to cut that. I'm going to cut Gustwalker. It just doesn't synergize in any way, and it's not that impressive. Brain Maggot does combo with like Ephemia and stuff, which is neat. But we still need to cut 5 more cards, so I think I'm getting to that point where I need to start just cutting some stuff that is neat but doesn't combo. Yeah, we'll cut Brain Maggot. We just don't have a lot going on with Ephemia, but still 2 mana, 2/1 flyer, but I guess don't really need a 2 mana, 2/1 flyer. I still like the Order of Midnight to bring back our important creatures. 2 more cuts. I guess 1 more cut if we're counting Black Bloom Rogue as our 17th land. Just 1 cut to go. I feel like Gonti is powerful enough that even though Gonti doesn't do any like life gain stuff, we can definitely leave that in. But pretty much everything else in our deck gains life now. Like, we are very synergistic here. I guess everything except like Unbreakable Formation, but I've got 3, 8, 14, 8. We've got like tons of creatures. So Unbreakable Formation is like, seems pretty clutch here. Can do just a lot of work. Giving the whole field +1/+1 Vigilance indestructible is just a massive swing, especially when a lot of the field could potentially be lifelinking creatures. So if I have to cut 1 more card out of here, what do I cut? Maybe I do just cut the Order of Midnight. But I do really theoretically like returning Pridemate or Heliod. I guess. I might second guess that in the future. Maybe something will highly underperform and we can throw that in there, like maybe Foreboding Fruit. But we'll see. I like having the random draw spell in for now. Slightly better than the random Disentomb, I think. Is like 1 mana, return a creature from your grave to hand. Alright, so we get to cut 1 land here. Let's make sure our mana base is actually correct. We've got 13 white sources, 11 black sources. Lots of early white here. 3 white 1-drops, 4 white 2-drops. So we definitely want more white than black, I'm thinking. Yeah, and 13, 11. So right now we have 8 white sources, 9 black sources, and 1 that's both. So we definitely cut a swamp here. And then now they're even. I do have a lot of double black cards like Grim Dancer and Gonti. So because I have a lot of cheap white cards, so I want a Plains turn 1 a lot of the time, but I also want 2 swamps once I get to 3 and 4 a lot of the time. I think an even split is pretty perfect here. 7 Plains, 1 white non-basic, 7 swamps, 1 black non-basic, and the dual land. Seems like a good mana base. All right. And now we can, of course, look at all the cuts here if we want to, which is just cool. It's just neat. I want to just see that and see if any of that looks better. We can do just our last little double check there. I think we're good. Oh, that messed up our mana, though. It put the swamp back in. Okay. Let's put in some pretty basics here. Oops, that is not what I wanted. And then we'll get into the gameplay. This will be my first time having drafted a white-black Lifegain deck in this cube, which is pretty interesting because I have drafted a lot, but I've never hit up this strategy, and I think it is one of the more popular and relatively powerful strategies, but we'll have to see how it does in the games. Let's get into this. So far, I've drafted mono red a ton of times, green black reanimator quite a few times, and then I've also drafted green blue proliferate, green red ramp, and green white enchantress. So I've tried a lot of stuff in the cube right now. I'm trying to collect them all, you know, hit every 2-color strategy at least once, really. This hand's a little bit of a risky keep. Actually quite a risky keep because all 3 of these cards require double black, but I just want to trigger a Griffinary so bad that I might just keep it because I can play turn 2 Griffinary, turn 3 Charming Prince to gain 3 life and trigger Griffinary. So it's a really dumb reason to keep this hand. I think this is definitely a hand we should mulligan, but you know, sometimes you just wanna make a Griffin. And Heliod's a pretty nice draw. If we draw any land in the whole deck, we'll be able to put a Heliod on this board too. Our opponent has started with a Dragon Master Outcast. I think that card's definitely at its best in red-green ramp, but they could still be in like mono red or something, and that's just another playable. They followed up with a Rogran Triome, so they could be a heavily multicolored deck as well. We'll have to see. But the Triomes coming into play tapped is not a huge downside, and cycling 3 is pretty nice. So when the Triomes come out, you don't want to immediately assume that your opponent's all 3 of those colors, because oftentimes if you're just in red-blue or red-white, you'd still run the Triome. That being said, our opponent going Mountain Triome Swamp makes me feel pretty confident that they are probably like 5 color here, 4 or 5. Let's see. Basilica Bellhaunt is probably the discard. Well, I kind of want to discard Grey Merchant or Grim Dancer first, because Bellhaunt, by the time we're casting Bellhaunt, our opponent's only likely to have like 1 or 2 cards in hand, so the discard effect on this could actually be a pretty big swing, and this is always going to gain 3 life, so it's always going to give us a Griffin. Maybe Grim Dancer, because that could just get like removal spelled, because Grey Merchant also is going to gain some life at the least. Yeah, I'll get rid of Grim Dancer. By the time we have double black, we'll have 5 mana total, because we already have 3 white. So if we draw a swamp next turn, we just play like Secluded Step tapped and play Heliod Suncrown, and Charming Prince to gain 3 and spit out a Griffin. And then we'll play our swamp turn 4 or swamp turn 5. And we didn't even draw the swamp here. Because I drew a Plains, I think I definitely cycle Secluded Step, just trying to hit black mana. I'm going to cycle it right now. If I draw a swamp immediately, I'll play the swamp instead. Oh my god. So yeah, if I drew a swamp there, I'd play the swamp. That way I can play Charming Prince here, and if I top deck another swamp next turn, I can play Bellhaunt. But drawing Plains means we just play Plains. Charming Prince, gain 3, spit out a Griffin. There is an argument for scrying, but the fact that we get a Griffin token if we gain life means that I don't think that that's the right play. Scrying would be valuable here, because we are definitely hurting on black mana. But I think I'd rather have a 2/2 flyer out than scrying 2 right now. So we can also just finish Davriel off with the flyer here.
Perish the thought.
I think I just discard the Plains, because we don't actually need any more Plains. The only way we're going to cast our 5 mana card here is if we get 2 more black sources on this field. So even if we had 4 Plains out, it doesn't actually help us cast anything here. Both of these cards, the only thing stopping us from casting them is our lack of swamps. Unbreakable formation. Interesting. I don't think I really do anything with that right now. I think I just slam down Heliod and slap Davriel. Heliod doesn't do anything right now, right? We only have 2 Devotion to White. We'll have 3 when Heliod's on the board. We need 5. So we just put Heliod out. Heliod doesn't do anything immediately. Yeah, let's go to combat first. We can hold up Unbreakable formation if they're going to try to do a removal spell on us here. Looks like our combat resolves. Alright, and now we can just drop Heliod. So we obviously don't want to draw another Plains right now. We really want to hit a swamp, but on any basic land that we hit, including if we just hit a Plains, we can just use Heliod's ability to give both of our creatures lifelink, and then trigger Heliod twice, get 2 counters on both of our cards, and we'd be gaining 4 life that turn for Griffin Airy. So if we draw just any land, we've got a pretty powerful follow-up play if our opponent does not have instant speed removal to interact with any of our creatures. If we draw no land at all, do I still want to gain life here? Or do I want an Unbreakable formation? I think I just give lifelink to one of our creatures so we can put a +1/+1 counter on probably the flyer, so that if I give the flyer lifelink in a future turn, we're gaining 3 life in that one turn. Because of lifelink, I think we still just attack with everybody. And I missed my trigger to give lifelink because I was trying to wait to see if they did anything in response, but Arena is a little unclear about when that step is, so that's unfortunate. No +1/+1 counter for me then, because I'm used to it being like the exact same number of clicks each time, but I don't know. I guess I clicked one too many times. Alright, Serendib Afreet, 3/4 flyer. That would hold off my attacks this turn anyway, even if this was a 3/3 flyer now. But I guess if it was a 3/3 flyer, I could then Unbreakable formation and still send into that. I would really hate to lose because of just a digital issue. I don't mean to say that the game bugged or anything. I'm just saying that it's one of those things that would never happen in an IRL game of Magic, because I would be like, all right, I attack with these creatures, your chance to say if you want to cast any spells. They say no. Then I would be like, okay, well then now I'll do the lifelink thing. But because it's on Arena, it's just like, next, ? Which is just, I don't know, pretty unclear and confusing sometimes to know exactly what's going on. I think I just play Danitha here, because Danitha into an Unbreakable formation next turn would be a 3 life gain. That could be pretty good. That being said, our opponent is going to be doing some crazy stuff with Dragon Master Outcast. Start spitting out a 5/5 every turn. But when our creatures are indestructible, we do still get to gain the 3 life next turn and not even lose a creature. So I have 9 black sources still in the deck. I have 9 black sources and 9 white sources. We have not drawn a single of the 9 blacks so far. Now that we have drawn into Falconwrath Noble, even just drawing a single black is relevant. Was definitely a pretty, as I said at the start, not the best keep. Just really wanted to poop out a Griffin. Spark Harvest on Danitha. Well, that blows. We did draw our first swamp, so we can play Falconwrath Noble here. The alternative is to Unbreakable formation or give one of our creatures a lifelink. Yeah, I guess I Falconwrath Noble. Our opponent's at kind of a low life total, and the Ifrit is going to keep damaging them every turn. That being said, getting slapped by 5/5 Flying Dragons is going to kill us very quickly. We are a lifelink deck. We can try to gain life and still outrace them, especially with an ability like Falconwrath Nobles on the board to ping them multiple times. Agonizing Remorse, well, that's brutal. There goes Unbreakable Formation. It's the only card we can cast, so I don't think they hit one of our black cards here, even if they think it's more powerful. I think Unbreakable Formation's the most powerful card in our hand either way. So now we're taking 8 in the sky. I could double block the Serendib Ifrit to kill it, but I kind of like that it's draining life. I might even, because we get to put a +1/+1 counter on something whenever we gain life, I think I'm going to chump block here. Drain them for a life, and I get to throw a +1/+1 counter on one of my creatures. Which means that I get to have a creature with 3 power to Griffin Airy. I guess that only happens at the beginning of my end step. That's unfortunate. If that happened during my opponent's end step too, that would be nice. I guess I should have thrown the counter onto the Charming Prince so I could chump attack with Charming Prince. I guess I can still do that, because if Charming Prince dies, I drain a life with Falconwrath Noble, so this is actually super fine. I'm going to make sure to watch this now. So here's where they want to block. And if they don't block, they're going to 8 here, which is mildly threatening. I'm going up to 16. Probably should have held on to the land so I could bluff something. They obviously know exactly what's in our hand here. So they see the line. So we will still just gain 2 and get a counter on our Falconwrath Noble, I think. Pass the turn. They're down to 7 from the Serendib Ifrit. Now I'm taking 10 from their flyers, but they can't send in the Serendib Ifrit, or I can block it, gain 4, drain them 1 still, and make Falconwrath Noble a 5/5. So I think while I would like to keep the card on their board that is draining them a life every turn, I think I still have to make this block here and just drain them the life the once. Little sad I don't get a Drake out of this, but this is still pretty fine. Now I've got a really big Falconwrath Noble. I could actually attack in with this and they have to chump block. And I gain life off of it. I think I chump attack too. Yeah, I'm getting a Griffin here as well. Griffin are really doing a lot of stuff here. I mean, really Heliod, I guess, technically. They start putting counters on the Charming Prince too to be safe, I guess. Spread out our power, because Falconwrath Noble's already big enough to deal with a dragon. And we're back up to 20 life? Oh my god. Wow. So it's looking like missing out on the life gain during that one turn earlier. It's not going to matter here, because Falconwrath Noble is just eating him up in conjunction with Heliod and this Griffin Airy. The synergy is really coming together here. Obviously, if I draw my second black, they just die. Grey Merchant will drain them for 3 life. But they kind of just die no matter what now because of Falconwrath Noble's ability. Anytime any creature dies, they're getting drained for 1 life. They're only at 3 right now. We make the chump block, we gain some life, and we drain them for 1. Make Charming Prince a little bigger again. Now Charming Prince is big enough to attack into a dragon and survive. Alright, the honorable death for our opponent. Go down to exactly 2 and shock land themselves to the face. Well, that was some crazy stuff. Heliod stacking up with Falconwrath Noble's ability. Just making our creatures incredibly massive, incredibly quickly, and all of that lifelink off of like 6 power creatures, bringing us back up to 20 against all those dragon tokens. That is some of the stuff in this cube that just shows off how crazy things can get pretty quickly too. Definitely going to keep this hand. It's got much better mana than our last hand. So we did keep a really greedy hand last time and got paid off at the end. So that was cool. All Seed of Life's Bounty will start things for our opponent, so they could also be a little lifelink deck over there. A life gain deck, I should say. 2 planes to start it off, and an Ajani's Pridemate. Well, All State of Life's Bounty into Ajani's Pridemate is definitely a more impressive start than my Pridemate is. I guess with Filigree Familiar, I get to throw my Pridemate up to 3/3 stats. I don't think I'm attacking here, though. They could double block and trade. And if they have a removal spell for Filigree... If they have a removal spell for Filigree Familiar, then that's really bad for me. They send in with both. Their Pridemate goes up to 3/3. I think I hold. Sigiled Sword of Valoron. That card is really impressive. So, I am 1 mana off from Grey Merchant here. And 1 black off from Foreboding Fruit with Adamant to create a food token. Kind of like just Unbreakable Formation and send in. I feel like I can hold off for that and do something more powerful with it later. And I do have several 1 white mana cards in this deck. Maybe we draw one of those. There is the third black for the card I just cast. But it is our 5th mana, so we can Grey Merchant later. I think we're just chilling. Johnny's Pridemate can block their 2/2 Knight token, and Filigree Familiar can block whatever the sword equips onto, which is probably going to be all seed here. This card is very threatening. It's an entire army in a can, just all by itself. You do have to have a creature to send in with the first attack, but after that you can start just equipping the sword to the knights that it's producing. Squire's Devotion to give a Johnny's Pridemate +1/+1 in lifelink and create a 1/1 lifelinking soldier token. So we can trade Pridemates here. I'll take the trade because they're, well, actually, I'm only trading with their All-Seed if I do that. That is a big issue. Gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. Actually, this goes really well for me. If they give a Johnny's Pridemate protection from white, Squire's Devotion falls off, and a Johnny's Pridemate becomes a 2/2. And if it's a 2/2, it can only do 2 damage to my stuff. So my Pridemate survives, and Filigree Familiar can do 2 damage to their Pridemate, even though my Pridemate can't kill it. So this actually is a little rules thing that is about to destroy my opponent. So that is unfortunate for them, but very good for me. And now I'll just Unbreakable Formation and just go nuts. And then we play the Rogue as our land, so we can play Grey Merchant next turn. So definitely Definitely a sad situation for my opponent there, but hopefully a bit of a learning moment for them so they don't get got by that before. But protection's a really weird mechanic that does a lot of different stuff. So yeah, definitely just here's the blurb on protection there. Cannot be targeted, dealt damage, enchanted, which means enchantments will fall off, and so forth. So Luminous Broodmoth here. Grey Merchant is not going to gain 3, but it will gain 2, and Leonin Vanguard would gain another life, but I don't have enough mana to play Grey Merchant and Griffinary here. If I play Griffinary, I'm gaining 1 life off the Vanguard. I kind of like just dropping out our enchantments here, the Griffinary and the Dawn of Hope, and then drawing a card when we go to combat off of Dawn of Hope. And next turn now I can Grey Merchant, and that will add to that 1 life gain there to be the 3 we need to make a Griffin. And I don't think I'm sending in with my 3/3s, because they can chump block their 1/1 lifelinker onto Johnny's Pridemate, and then just kill one of my 3/3s. So Luminous Broodmoth does get to bring back non-flying creatures to the battlefield, but creature tokens just vanish when they hit the graveyard, so they cannot come back. They just cease to exist before that happens. Alright, Luminous Broodmoth with a Sigiled Sword of Valoron is quite powerful. With the Vigilance, they get to spit out a token here. I guess they may be playing it super safe there, or they didn't realize the Vigilance. Definitely going to drop down Grey Merchant, drain some life, trigger Pridemate, draw another card. And that would be enough life gain to spit out a Griffinary token, so there is the concession from our opponent. I think from some of those plays, our opponent was probably a bit of a newer player, so certainly a rough game for them. Gotta feel a little bad there. The Alseid not being able to save their Pridemate was huge. Basically turned it into them sacrificing their Alseid and losing the Pridemate. I didn't even end up losing a creature in that trade. That was definitely a bad time. Alright, so this is one of those hands where we do lose a bit of tempo by having the Temple of Silence come to play tapped here. Not being able to play Serra Ascendant turn 1, but the hand is powerful enough that it's definitely still worth the keep. We're not going to mulligan just because we don't get to play all our cards the turn. That would be the coolest. I think I do still want a Leonin Vanguard here. With Serra Ascendant, I am really trying to hit 30 life. That's going to be pretty hard to do with just Serra Ascendant, Lamphead, and Leonin Vanguard, though. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep it, because I think next turn I'm going to play Serra Ascendant first, even when I have 2 mana up, and then turn 3 I can play Leonin Vanguard and Lampad, so I can kind of curve out with a 1-drop and 2-drop on turn 3. That way. I can't just play Lampad on this turn, and then 2 cards next turn, because I only have the 1 white source. So I can only play 1 of these white cards per turn, so that's why we're playing a little weird in that sense. Just so I can dump out everything here and start gaining life off Vanguard, 1 life a turn. Definitely not sending in the Serra Ascendant. This card gets very impressive if we can hit 30 life. Our opponent is on green-white, looks like possibly green-white tokens, but could really be green-white anything, with Ovia Pashiri to be able to create a bunch of creature tokens. That is just where my mind goes. It's a good Foreboding Fruit. I am taking some damage there, though, so it will slow down Serra Ascendant. I could also Unbreakable Formation here, attack with everybody. They'd all have 2 power, and I'd be getting in with a 2-power lifelinker. That seems pretty nice. Don't love not holding on to the Unbreakable Formation for later plays, but I think I'll still do that. And I get to hold up 1 mana for the Lampad. That is not Unbreakable Formation. I literally just cast the wrong card there. Alright. Almost did. Let's get in there. Looks like we're getting all that damage in. They're down to 13. We're up to 24. Still a ways from 30, but we're working on it. We gain 1 life per turn, 3 life a turn if we can get Sarah Ascendant in there. Ooh. Mutating the Cub Warden, creating 2 1/1 lifelinking tokens. So our opponent definitely has blockers here, so we are absolutely not sending in Sarah Ascendant. They could double block Sarah Ascendant with 2 of those 1/1s and kill it. I think we'll still send in Leonin Vanguard. They'll have to block with everything to kill Vanguard. I do only get to kill 2 of their things when they block because of Pashiri's 2 toughness, but killing Pashiri is pretty nice, even if they're kind of stuck on mana, not really able to use her ability. And I think we're playing Danitha over Foreboding Fruit here, again, just because I really want to hit 30 life, so I don't want to pay any life right now. I suppose I am paying 2 and then gaining 3 later, so I am going up 1 life total. But I think it's still just not a thing I want to do. So they just trump block here. Fair enough. Start gaining life up. We will play Danitha. 25 life now. Only 5 life away. Anguirus. Alright, well, they get to destroy our land pad, which means we just sacrifice the land pad now to gain a life. But this is what I was talking about with like all of the just random main deckable artifact and enchantment hate for the green-white enchantress kind of decks. That's why I really just had a bad time with that strategy. It's because just stuff like that happened all the time where they're just like, yeah, I'll make a 4/4 reach trample, and also, by the way, say goodbye to your best enchantment. Okay, I'm at 26 now. Venerated Loxodon is an issue. If I attack with everybody, they block Sarah Ascendant and it dies. I guess off of the first strike damage from Danitha, you know what? I go to 27 if I Foreboding Fruit. I gain 1 there and then 2 off the first strike. Ooh, I could really get them here if they try to block Sarah Ascendant. Because I can sacrifice the food, gain 2 life off Danitha in response, and my Sarah Ascendant will then be too big. Okay, they block Leonin Vanguard. They are too smart. They're too smart for me. Okay, I can still Erebos' Intervention. Then I'm only gaining 2 life, so Sarah Ascendant doesn't get in for the massive amount of damage. But then I save my Vanguard. They're gaining a ton of life on the crackback, but I'm going to have a big life linker on the board. This is going to be a long game. We both have a ton of life link out. Yeah, I think I hold on to Erebos' Intervention. Gain the 3. First strike for 2 puts us to 30. So this is like before Sarah Ascendant deals damage, it turns into the 7/7. So that is how we would like really get them if they wanted to try to block and kill Sarah Ascendant, if they didn't realize all of those little ordering things in the way that the first strike and regular damage works. Alright, they gain 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, this is going to be annoying. I guess, I mean, Danitha's got first strike, so we kill 1, gain 2. Taking a bunch here, which shuts down Sarah Ascendant. Erebos' Intervention will turn Sarah Ascendant back on. I only need to gain 3 to do that. I think I kill Cub Warden. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I only have 5 because Secluded Step comes into play tapped, so I can't kill Cub Warden. So if I want to make Sarah Ascendant active, 7, 8, 9 I swing in for. I think it's still worth it. We just do this for 4 and then cycle Secluded Step. Again, first strike will make Saracen a 7/7 before it deals damage. Opponent's down to 3. I get the cycle Secluded Step, and I hold up a blocker for one of their 2/2 lifelinkers, so they don't even gain that much. We are still definitely gaining, well, we're now definitely gaining more life than them. I don't know if we were last turn when they had still like a million 2/2s. Alright. They do 6 to us, but we're still at 34. Saracen is still active, but they do survive a swing here. So we cycle Secluded Step, pick up a Dawn of Hope. That seems quite nice. Start drawing cards. I think I just send in with the Ascendant. If I send in with Danitha, they can block with their 2/3, kill Danitha. Alright, create a 1/1. Hit for 7 and gain 7. I will draw a card before I choose what to do here. Ooh, okay, well, I'm just playing All Seed of Life's Bounty over the Filigree Familiar because I can sacrifice that to give Saracen protection from any removal spell they try to do. So that was a very good draw. Very important to get this on the board. Alright. We are again just going to try to eat the 2/2. And we succeed. I am not going to draw the card here because I think it's important to hold my 1 mana up for the Alseid, because that is about the only way I could see us losing a handle of this game, is if they can get rid of Saracen. Alright, we just pro white now. And that should be game. There's the concession. So I think we're a couple of wins in now. With no losses under our belt, White-Black Lifegain's working pretty well. I had heard it is one of the stronger strategies, but again, did not experience it myself. Ooh, 3 wins, no losses. Pretty fantastic start to the run overall. Been having a great time with this deck. That first game was a little embarrassing. Definitely made some unintentional misplays, just missing out on my opportunity to give lifelink. But the general just deck as a whole, the strategy as a whole, I should say, definitely seems powerful enough to make up for that. And still got there that game. All right. I'm going to keep this. We have 3 out of the 4 mana we need. Obviously, as you saw with the flip land there, the Black Bloom Bog. We're going to play that turn 1. Turn 2, we get to do Blood Artist. Turn 3, Familiar. And hopefully turn 4, Gonti for a pretty impressive curve. Not the most traditional curve for this deck. We don't have a lot of like random life gain shenanigans going on. Just some basic black-white good stuff going on here. And we even have a Falconwrath Noble coming up. We've got the Flying Blood Artist. Our opponent plays a Druid of the Cowl. They can tap that for green mana, so they can ramp up into a 4 mana card on turn 3 here. Death Touchers should be pretty good against whatever just big green stompy creatures they could be ramping into. And with a Cultivate as well, they are certainly a ramp deck. Trying to go off the rails into extremely high mana cost very quickly. Next turn they get to play a 6 mana card. Did draw into a Johnny's Pridemate. That is pretty scary with Blood Artist, with Cub Warden mutating onto something that could be quite nice too. Do I play Pridemate instead of Familiar here? This is kind of a like, do you feel lucky punk moment. If we feel lucky, we play Pridemate here, because I think Pridemate plays into us hitting a land next turn really well, because then we can mutate Cub Warden onto the Pridemate, which is incredible. But if we don't hit a land next turn, or within the next card, we'd rather have like a Filigree Familiar on this board, because that can like chump block and draw us another card, get us closer to our land. I think I'll play the Pridemate first. I guess the worst case scenario, if we don't hit our land next turn, we can still play the Filigree Familiar, and then we're gaining 2, so we are making Pridemate a 3/3. I just don't love that, because I'm expecting something big from our opponent relatively soon. Alright, I guess we've got some time. We've got some time. They're just dropping down a hand of smaller things. So now I can play Leonin Vanguard or Filigree Familiar. I think I still play the Filigree Familiar. The Vanguard would be gaining a life every single turn, so consistently triggering the Pridemate, but Familiar is a card I would much rather block with, and I will absolutely be blocking that Scrap Heap Scrounger if it sends in. They've cultivated already this game, and they didn't pick up a black source, so I feel like the Scrounger might just be in here as a 2-mana 3/2. So I don't really think we have to worry about it coming back from the graveyard. Because if they had black sources, I think they would have just grabbed a swamp off the Cultivate. Just in case for, like, the Scrap Heap Scrounger. Alright, okay, well, they're setting up to potentially top deck into something devastating, but currently neither of these cards really do anything. 2 triggers off of Blood Artist, thanks to creatures trading here, makes Ajani's Pridemate quite large. So Animation Module, if they have a +1/+1 counter on one of their things, they can spend 3 to put another one on, and every time they put a counter on a thing, they can spend 1 to get a 1/1. And Divine Visitation makes every token that comes into play under their control a 4/4 flyer. So with those 2 things combined, whenever they're paying 1 to get a 1/1, they're actually paying 1 to get a 4/4 flyer. So they're setting up for really scary future turns if they draw into +1/+1 counters. I'm going to mutate Lifelink onto my Pridemate here, I think, because I really want to just start racing. Put the larger power and toughness on top because we get all of the abilities of the whole stack. We're really trying to just race before they can get any flyers. The Great Henge means every single creature that comes into play under their control now comes into play with a +1/+1 counter and they draw a card. So that immediately means any creature off the top for our opponent is very, very impressive. So again, we need to do whatever play we can that gets in for the most damage as quickly as possible. I think that would be Leonin Vanguard for another life gain trigger on the Cub Warden, and probably Unbreakable formation so I can send in with everybody, get more counters on. Maybe it's Falconwrath Noble and Leonin Vanguard. Actually, I like that a little better, because we actually are fine with our 1/1s dying, because we drain more life from them that way. And then we can Unbreakable formation next turn with also a flyer out that is just guaranteed to get damage in. And Gonti is really just spinning the wheel and trying to hit something that races quickly off of the top of their deck. So our opponent really has set up a little bit of a Rube Goldberg machine here to where if they draw any creature off the top of their deck, I guess we have our own Rube Goldberg machine of just life gain shenanigans, but that's kind of what the cube's all about, Tinkerer's Cube. But yeah, any creature off the top of their deck comes into play, gets a +1/+1 counter on it, which means it triggers Animation Module, which means they pay 1, get a 4/4 flyer, and they draw a card off the Great Henge. They can then spend 3, put another counter on it, spend 1, get another 4/4 flyer. Any creature off the top here is really good for them. Oh no, that's brutal. That might just be game. Yep, they scoop them up. They scoop them up. That was a really sad way to end that game. I think that game could have gone on a lot longer because of the crazy little combo they had all set up. Literally, all it needed was any creature in the history of Magic. I guess not technically any creature, but definitely any creature in the Tinkerer's Cube that they could cast for green or white would just be a beautiful top deck for them at that point. That being said, with both Blood Artist and Falconwrath Noble, out, and them only gaining 2 life a turn to the Great Henge. We certainly had ways to try to reach over all of their blockers and just drain them for that final bit of life. So we'd start playing in a way where we're only sending in with our massive creature if it can't die, and then we're just sending with our little creatures, letting them die and draining 2 life every time. But yeah, I guess every time they had to chump block the massive creature, they would be getting drained for 2 for every creature they chump block with, so even then it would be pretty fine. This is another risky keep if I hold on to this, but potentially on turn 3, I can gain 3 life by attacking with a 1/1 lifelinker and gaining 2 life off of Filigree Familiar's Enter the Battlefield effect. That seems pretty unlikely because it requires our opponent to have no blockers for our Sarah Ascendant. I think we have to mulligan. I don't know. We've got a 1, 2, and 3 drop. We got a curve. We've sort of got a curve. If my next 2 lands are black sources, then we can cast everything here. It all worked out the first time I kept a land like this, the very first game. We'll see if we can do that again. Definitely playing Sarah Ascendant turn 1. We're hoping to draw Plains or a Swamp by turn 3 so that I can just play all of our untapped sources and curve out. Well, if our opponent drops a 1/1 lifelinker, we don't get to attack into that. I think I'm actually going to cycle the Secluded Step. This is a really bold move, but I really want to hit swamps throughout this game. So cycling that gets us closer to a swamp, even if a swamp is like 20 cards away. Now it's only 19 cards away. Viashino Pyromancer hitting us for 2. Not that scary. Surprised they didn't attack with the 1/1 there. Vanguard is a pretty good creature for this kind of deck, so I think you would offer the trade, but I suppose they'd like to leave it back on blocks too, so I can't just attack with both and get something through here. Pacifism on Sarah Ascendant is pretty sad, but if I draw my card that gives it protection from white at any point in the game, I can turn off the pacifism. So that is cool. Now I am gaining a life off of the Vanguard. Start getting a little bit of stemming the bleeding going on, but I guess there's not really any bleeding right now. If they give everything trample, they might send in, but I feel like still they might not want to trade, really. There's a Sky Knight Vanguard. If they attack with all 3, they get to flip Legion's Landing, so I think there's definitely a consideration here if you're my opponent. So I could get rid of pacifism right now. Don't think I want to do that, though. There is my first swamp. Super nice. I can Unbreakable Formation, and then I gain 3 life this turn. I also gain 3 life by just playing Filigree Familiar, so I guess I do that. Because I gain 2 there, gain 1 off the Vanguard. So getting a 2/2 flyer to block things here is really good. And Filigree Familiar is a great blocker as well, because even if all it's doing is chump blocking, I'm drawing a card off of it, getting closer to my second swamp, or just my 4th mana in general for Cub Warden. And Cub Warden I get to throw onto just a 2/2 flyer, which is great. Because then I just have a 3/5 lifelinking flyer. So we're definitely not blocking that. I think we definitely want to kill the Goblin Bannerets. And we want to make sure that our 2/2 flyer survives, so we just block a 1/1 with it. Suppose we get rid of the lifelinking one. That's marginally better than the one that just has no abilities. I kind of want to keep the rest of my stuff alive, so I just take 3 here. Or I take 4 or 5? I take 5 here. I'm very bad at math. I get hit by Pyromancer, Vanguard, and a 1/1. And they Flame Spill the Filigree Familiar. Alright, fine. That saves the Goblin Banneret. But yeah, I don't think we're going to get the life to trigger our Sarah Ascendant, so All Seed of Life's Bounty is now here to just protect something else. We did hit our 4th mana to Cub Warden. Do I just Cub Warden here? I think I do. I think with lifelink I can easily race our opponent here. Yeah. Plus this makes two 1/1 lifelinking blockers. That's really massive. And then I think I can just send in with that. I could hold it back to block their Vanguard, but they can mentor it again, turn it into a 3/4, in which I'm not even killing it on blocks anyway, so might as well send in with that. I'm not going to want to trade Vanguard with anything. I'm not going to want to trade Allseed with anything either, so I'm just going to save back the lifelink tokens. And the Drake. The Griffin. Not Drake. I get mixed up because the Roost of Drakes from Zendikar Rising was a great build around uncommon that sped out a bunch of 2/2 flyers as well, but it was in blue. And it spit out Drakes instead of Griffins. Alright. They've got 1 mana up here. I think we get to actually kill these 1 toughness creatures here, which is massive. Big if true. Alright, well, I'm pretty sure we win. Let's just play a Heliod, I guess. Start making our Cub Warden even bigger, because we get to hold up the mana to give it protection here. Oh, I guess I spammed all attack against a 1/1 there. Let's just save our Serra Ascendant, I guess. Have another really big threat now. I'm spreading out our threats. That was definitely a punt there. Just slapping that all attack button. I got excited. They send in with Sky Knight Vanguard, so I have 7 damage in the sky, so I guess I have 9 damage in the sky, really, so. Well, now we get to do Unbreakable Formation and just go ham. It really doesn't matter at this point. Yeah, when these things start stacking together, it's just ridiculous. Warzov Lifegain just does some absolute work. Alright. I mean, all our stuff is indestructible, so I don't know what the double blocks are about. Send a message, I guess. Oh wow, and Serra Ascendant even ascended up to 8/8 status at the end there. This deck's ridiculous. This definitely does seem like one of the better archetypes, at least with how our games have gone so far. So we're at 5 wins and no losses, even if I lose every game from now on. Once you hit 5 wins, the reward is 4,000 gold and 3 random cards, so we are in the value. If I lose every game, I just got exactly as much gold as I spent on this back out of it. So I got to play for free and get a couple random card rewards, which is pretty cool. This is just almost definitely a mulligan. That's the first hand that I was like, yeah, that's a mull. This is probably also a mulligan. If I keep this, I get rid of Basilica Bell Hunt. I still have turn 2 Blood Artist, and I get to hold up an Erebos' Intervention. We obviously need to draw into action, but we have a couple things to actually do. I'm gonna mulligan again. Shuffler is not liking our 5-0 run right now. It is just... it's over it. It's like, alright, get out of here, let somebody else win for once. I guess we're mono black. Hey, alright. Top deck to the plains. I don't have any white cards in hand, but most of our white cards only require 1 white. I think our only double white is the mutate cost of Cub Warden, but that is an important one to hit. It is much better mutated than just hard cast. So the Guardian Idol can turn into a 2/2 for 2 mana, so we do need to remember that. It is kind of a surprise blocker in that way. I like playing the Filigree Familiar first. As always, just get that out there. Send it into any block in the world. You'd never care if they're like pump spelling to kill it or surprise killing it with flame spill or anything like that, because it's giving you value when it dies too. Ooh, Grateful Apparition with a +1/+1 counter means that sends in for 2, it proliferates onto itself, so it's now a 3/3, then it sends in for 3, and then makes itself a 4/4, then it sends in for 4, makes itself a 5/5. Really nice card there, and a Sarah Ascendant from our opponent. Well, let's Gaunty Lord of Luxury. If they're playing Sarah Ascendant, we might be able to hit a good life gain card that synergizes with our deck. Well, I mean, Mikaeus is not nothing. I do like getting the Mikaeus out of their deck, so they can't draw it at the very least. So we can just dump a bunch of +1/+1 counters onto our whole field, essentially. We can do it over and over again, given enough time. Pretty powerful card, if a little slow. Obviously, a ridiculous combo with Grateful Apparition and Karn's Bastion. And they had the mana to adapt Incubation Druid, giving it 3 +1/+1 counters. So now when Grateful Apparition hits us, they turn the Apparition into a 4/4 and the Incubation Druid into a 4/6. Opponent is definitely off to a scary start. A lot of great proliferate going on. And Champion of Lambholt. Oh no. Champion of Lambholt could very quickly just kill us. So this card, whenever a creature comes into play under their control, they put a +1/+1 counter on it, and none of our creatures with power less than it can block. So as soon as this has 3 power, we can't block any of their creatures. So if that had 3 power right now, they hit for 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 14, 15, because it would have 3 power. Basically, we could very easily just die next turn. So that card is very threatening. That is definitely the biggest weakness of our deck. We did not draft a lot of removal, so we don't have a lot of ways to interact with our opponent's stuff. I actually don't... I'm not sure we have more than like 1. We definitely have Erebos' Intervention, but I think that's it. So I kind of want a Falkenrath Noble here, but the thing I don't like about that is I can't hold up Lamphead of Death's Vigil's ability if I do that. So yeah, again, if they upgrade the champion a little bit, we just die. Well, if we die, we die. I'm going to play the Falkenrath Noble. The big issue with this is if they play a single creature and then they proliferate onto everything with Karn's Bastion, we are dead on board. Uh-oh. Okay, well, at least they won't be proliferating with Karn's Bastion. Oh, no. Oh, God. So Ranger of Eos comes into play, searches for 2 creatures that only cost 1 or less mana. So they grab 2 creatures, cast both of them. That means Champion of Lambholt will be a 4/4. None of our creatures will be able to block. They get to attack with everything for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Put me to 1 life and proliferate onto all their stuff with a counter on it. Unfortunately for them, their 1-drops were 2 green cards, so they didn't actually get to play both of them this turn, so I'm at 2 life instead of 1 life, so that's a big difference. Big chance over here. I'm going to go ahead and just draw 2 cards and lose 2 life here, so we can see what we get off the top. No, it's so I can pride concede the same way our first opponent did with the Shock Land. Or one of our early opponents, I don't remember if it was round 1 specifically. That was a really nice synergistic deck from our opponent. The Proliferate really going off with Grateful Apparition. Some powerful stuff. So that is definitely one of those games that shows how powerful removal spells and stuff are to have in this format, and it is the biggest weakness of our deck, so a little bit of a learning moment there. We probably should have drafted removal more highly. because we really needed the interaction to deal with the Grateful Apparition in the early game, and then since we didn't have that, by the time they played the Champion of Lamholt, we really needed the interaction for that immediately, and did not have that either, so multiple different cards that we would have loved to shoot here. This is like literally just our game one hand. I think I'm just going to keep it again. I mean, turn 3, spitting out a 2-2 and a 2-2 flyer seems pretty good. We're going to play Secluded Step turn 1 to make sure that I can actually play my 2 drops on turn 2. Obviously, Griffin Airy first. Immediately drew a swamp this time, though, so that is very nice. We're already having a better time than that game. But I suppose that's debatable, because we did win that game. So I'm going to cast Serra Ascendant and see if they want to Essence Scatter it. Okay. Looks like a no. So now we'll cast Charming Prince. Unsummon on Serra Ascendant, sure enough. I got really scared there that they had Censor instead of Essence Scatter, but both of those are in the cube. So it's really 50-50 on which one you want to try to play around. If they have Essence Scatter, they'll probably counter the Serra Ascendant. And if they have Censor, then you would want to play Charming Prince first so you could hold the 1 mana up. Censor counters unless your opponent can pay 1 additional mana, and Essence Scatter just counters any creature. So now, do I have any way to gain 3 life here? Absolutely not. I think I just attack and then I play Blood Artist Serra Ascendant. I guess I'll try to play Serra Ascendant first. Maybe they've got a counterspell for it now. And then we'll play Blood Artist after that. We would rather them counter that than Blood Artist. Alright. Again, like, Serra Ascendant can do really scary things once we hit 30 life, but we actually don't have that, like, quick of life gain with this hand. So we're definitely fine to do that first. Ooh, the 4th mana for Cub Warden is huge here. We get to turn something into a 3/5 lifelinker, which gives us more Griffins off of Griffin Airy every turn. I think we want to give it to the Flying Griffin token. Actually, both of our other creatures, we could give it to Blood Artist, but Charming Prince is a human, so technically you cannot mutate onto humans, so couldn't even put it on the Charming Prince if I wanted to. I think I definitely wouldn't want to put it on Blood Artist, because Blood Artist is already going to be a pretty high priority target for removal, so we don't want to stack Cub Warden onto something with like a really good ability that they already want to kill. Because yeah, if they do something like Pacifism, I guess that's not so bad if it was on Blood Artist, because it would get to still do its ability. But we want to like spread out our threats. Okay. Well, I guess now I get to play Gaunty, and they don't have any blue mana up, so I know Gaunty resolves. Yeah, I think we just Gaunty here. Silver Smoke Ghoul doesn't do much. They have a Dovin. Dovin gains 1 life. There's also Spark Double. Does Spark Double copy the mutates and stuff? I think Spark Double's the best creature here anyway, because we can Spark Double Gaunty. Or the best card here anyway. But I'm actually going to Google that. Let me make sure that I'm playing audio well minimized. Yeah, I am. Okay, I'm going to Google that while our opponent's turn happens. Spark Double plus Mutate. What happens when Spark Double copies a creature that's mutated? Copyable effects are applied. This includes copy effects, changes to an object's base characteristics. So it copies all the mutate stuffs, I think? The characteristics added to a permanent by mutating a creature spell are copyable values, so they can be copied by another object. So if I Spark Double Cub Warden, then I get a 3/5 flying lifelink, which is pretty cool. I guess I get a 4/6 because Spark Double comes into play with a +1/+1 counter. So do I want to still Spark Double Gaunty to just draw another card off of their deck, or do I want to Spark Double Cub Warden? I have 23 cards to go, so they're not really milling me quickly. They've only played 1 mill spell, just the Merfolk Secret Keeper, so I'm not super worried about the mill. I think I have time to just play a long game and do fun stuff here. So let's pick up a Gonti. Pick up a Helm of the Host. Helm of the Host on Gonti. Yeah. I don't think I'm attacking in. Luminous Broodmoth's ability is incredibly powerful here. Anything they block just comes back with flying. Anything they block with, I should say. Any of their non-flying creatures that die. Mesmerizing Benthid. So Helm of the Host is going to take a little while to set up, but, I mean, worth it, right? Now we just set down a Dawn of Hope. Hope they don't have removal for the Helm of the Host, and equip it next turn and just start going crazy. Helm of the Host Gonti time. I may not have drafted a Helm of the Host, but that's not going to stop me from playing around with it. I guess we could throw Helm of the Host on Cub Warden as well and just start getting 3/5 lifelinkers, which might be better now that they have a 3/4 flyer and a 2/3 flyer, so they could just start trying to attack me for lethal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 mana. I think I want to put it on Gonti. I mean, you gotta do it, right? Into the Royal and Siren Lookouts. I have 3 mana up. I like Into the Royal to surprise get rid of their Broodmoth before their stuff dies. Do the Helm of the Host things die? No, it's just haste. Yeah, with Blood Artist, I think I just start sending in with the non-helmeted Gontis, sure. Then I return Luminous Broodmoth to their hand and drain them some life. Or just gonna take it. They don't want to lose any of their creatures. Does Gonti reveal the card? You may look at and cast the card. Okay, so it is exiled face down, so they don't know that it's Into the Royal. Just double checking based on the block there. But they might have done some trades because they'd get the stuff back with flying. They drop down a Heliod now. I've used their cards to redo my Gonti so many times now. Because I got the Helm of the Host because I used their Spark Double from my first Gonti to do a second Gonti. This is the rudest game of Magic that I think I've ever achieved in this cube. Gonti just repeatedly copy my Gonti with their stuff. Send in again. Well, they've got an Indestructible out now, but again with Blood Artist on board. And now I Into the Royal and then I counter their Broodmoth. Yeah, let's just go in. Even if they block with Gonti, at least I'm draining them for 1 off of Blood Artist. Or even if they block Gonti with Heliod. I don't know if I said that right. I think I might have said even if they block with Gonti. Okay, yeah, that happens. So I drain them for 1 and hit them for 4. Cool. I could draw a card here, but I'd rather hold up all my mana for their stuff, and I don't want to get milled. I'll just cast their hand instead. I have 20 cards in my library. I shouldn't care about mill here. Probably should have just drawn the card. But I have 7 mana up, and 7 mana is how much this costs. 3 mana for Didn't Say Please, 4 mana if I want to kick Into the Royal. But I suppose kicking Into the Royal just draws me a card, which I just would draw for 2 mana there anyway. +1/+1 counters on stuff? Return things? Sure. Johnny is fine.
It is good to see you, my friend.
I thought I just got a follower. Because I have a Johnny's voice lines as the different alerts. I guess that one's... I think that's my bit alert. I don't remember.
Deliver
on
us
Twitch.
victory.
That really weirded me out there. Yeah, together we are unstoppable. That's the follower alert. Oh, that was a weird moment for me all around. I think I just attack with everybody and drain them for 6 off Blood Artist this turn. Like, do they have any lifelink? They don't have any mana up and they don't have any lifelink? Sure. Alright, and it's just kind of random stuff. I guess I'll take the eagle. I don't want to attack with the one with Helm of the Host, but I'll attack with everything else. Because it either hits them or drains them with Blood Artist here. Seems pretty safe. Worst case scenario, I've got like an Into the Royal up, and they don't even have 27 power on the board, do they? If they somehow survive this. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 with the Johnny's +1/+1 counters. Yeah, they don't even have 27 damage on the board. If they block in a way where every single one of their creatures survives and none of my creatures drain them, I can still survive next turn. And I'm almost guaranteed to get a Griffin here. Drain them at least 3. Okay, we are definitely going to Into the Royal the Brood Moth to stop their... Well, actually, I don't even need to do that, because what is blocking here? I need to resolve these abilities first, so I can actually see the blocks. So, an Illusion's just going to die, Heliod won't die, an Illusion's just going to die, Elite Guard Mage is just going to kill my flyer, so it won't die. The only thing they have that'll die that would come back with a flying counter will come back as a 0/0, so I don't even need to Into the Royal their Luminous Broodmark here. Or Brood Moth. So we're fine. Is this 5 creatures dying? I don't think so. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it is. Okay. It's 6. And there's the concession. Well, that was a big old math is for blockers style swing. I was kind of just like, if we send it, I don't see how they could survive. This probably works. Alright, 6 wins, 1 loss. We're at 5,000 golds now. We're in the value. See if I can get this final win in the next 2 games. But I think it's pretty likely. The white-black Lifegain deck's working out, doing a lot of crazy stuff. Definite keep, I've got 3 cards in hand. Or 3 mana in hand. I get that turn 2 Griffin area. I could potentially Basilica Bellhaunt into a Griffin later, but I have a Blood Artist on turn 2 as well. Blood Artist doesn't really affect the board because it's not going to block well. I could Erebos' Intervention, their Pelt Collector, just right now. Do I want Griffinary or Blood Artist out more first? I think that I would rather have a Blood Artist out, but I don't love that they could have like a fight spell for it, but it doesn't really matter the order I do it, because Blood Artist is going to be the first creature I play either way. So playing a Griffinary doesn't even play around a fight spell, because they can just do the fight spell later. Blood Artist is likely to be the sole creature on my board for a while. And now we set up next turn playing Griffinary. The turn after that, we could Erebos' Intervention with Blood Artist's Lifegain to spit out a 2/2 Drake by gaining 3 life. So we're probably going to be casting Erebos' Intervention during our turn, even though it's an instant speed card, just so we can guarantee a Griffin out of it. But since we did hit the 4th mana, I suppose next turn we could easily just Basilica Bellhaunt. We'll do that if they don't play any more impressive creature. But if they play something that really needs to die, we can just Erebos' Intervention it. Drana, Liberator of Malak here. Well, I guess Erebos' Intervention it is, because that really needs to die. A 2/3 flying first strike. Whenever it deals combat damage to us, they put a +1/+1 counter on each attacking creature they control. So it's fantastic with proliferate cards, and even without, just pumping their entire field is pretty huge. Alright, so we are going to Erebos' Intervention during our turn, so that we can spit out a 2/2 Flying Griffin from our Griffinary. Ovaya Pashiri is quite powerful as well, but it requires them dumping a bunch of mana into it, so it slows them down if they keep using that ability. but it can over time be quite scary. But I think if the game goes long enough to where they're repeatedly using these kinds of effects, we can also just like be repeatedly getting value from stuff like Griffinary. I think we can definitely compete with Ovaya Pashiri because she's slow enough for that, whereas Drana is just very, very quick and aggressive. So our opponent played a Temple of Malady, scrying when they played it. We're going to play a Temple of Silence next turn, most likely. I like the play from our opponent. See if we can't follow it up with the same play. Incubation Druid coming out. If they play one more card, this Basilica Bellhaunt is looking real fancy. We can make them discard the only card that they're holding on to. They do something here. Oh, maybe a Deadweight or something? They are looking at our Griffin token and our Blood Artist. But they could also just be checking for abilities and doing some math here. Doesn't necessarily mean removal. I mean, we've been looking at their Ovia Pashiri a bunch. Make us sacrifice a creature? Alright, sacrifice the Drake. Definitely not sacrificing Blood Artist. Sorry, Drake. But you aren't comboing with any other cards that we draw, like a Johnny's Pride Mate or anything like that. Whereas Blood Artist certainly is. No blocks, take the 3. We'll have plenty of life. Draw Dawn of Hope, seems great. That is another card that will combo very well with Blood Artist. But we're definitely playing Basilica Bellhaunt here. I'm going to throw that land on the bottom. We've already got 5 mana. Pretty much enough to cast everything in our deck. And here's Basilica Bellhaunt. Discard the only card left in hand. It's Affectionate Indrik, which would have came into play and fought off our Blood Artist and killed it. So really happy that we get to force them to discard that. They will have enough mana to flash back their Chainer's Edict as soon as they play another land. But now we have another Griffin token we can easily just sacrifice and replace later on in the game. But I think I might rather just sacrifice our 3/4. I suppose with a 3/5 Incubation Druid out, we'd prefer to sacrifice the 2/2, even though it can fly, just because it doesn't block as well. So this next turn, we can set up a Dawn of Hope to start drawing a bunch of cards, or we can just play... Ooh. Well, now we cannot play Grey Merchant to get another Drake. Now I like Heliod and Dawn of Hope on this board. I could just play literally only Heliod and then just give lifelink. So I get a counter on a creature. Yet again, Farrakhan's Libation, one of these random just main deckable enchantment hate cards that can really hose the green-white Enchantress decks. Do I Dawn of Hope or do I gain life here? Gaining life is just going to put a +1/+1 counter onto one of my creatures, which is good. I suppose they are going to make me sacrifice a creature next turn anyway, pretty likely. So we'll just play the Dawn of Hope. And then, since we're pretty likely to have to sacrifice that Drake anyway, there's no reason to like give it lifelink and put a +1/+1 counter on it. And I'm going to attack with it as well, because I'm not going to block with it just in case they Chainer's Edict here. I want to keep that around to sacrifice to that. I think it's still our weakest creature, even if we're not repeatedly replacing it. A 3/4 is just pretty good at blocking Incubation Druid, and I think that's kind of important here. Pelt Collector as well. Alright. We do get to throw a +1/+1 counter onto something with Heliod, which is cool. Make it a 4/5 blocker now. There's an argument for starting to throw counters on Blood Artist just to get it to a high enough toughness where it doesn't easily die to a fight spell, but I don't think we're ever going to attack or block with our Blood Artist, even if it gets absolutely massive. It's just because its ability is so important. Leonin Vanguard's a fantastic draw here. That puts us at enough devotion for Heliod and gains a life when we go into combat. Put your counter on the Vanguard. Can pay 2 to draw a card. And still have the 2 mana to give something lifelink here. Send in with Heliod. I think I even send in with the Bellhaunt now that we're just gaining life all over the place. I don't really need blockers. Give lifelink to Heliod. Oh. Heliod cannot give himself lifelink, so we'll just give lifelink to the Bellhaunt. And throw another counter on the Vanguard. Our opponent is down to 6, and we're really going off with Heliod doing just crazy stuff. And there's the concession from our opponent, leading us to a nice, firm 7-win run yet again. I believe the videos have been 3 7-win runs and 1 3-3, so really nice runs in Tinkerer's Cube Draft yet again. So go ahead and scoop up these prizes at the end here. And yeah, don't have a ton to say at the end there, but I am happy that I've tried out the white-black Lifegain deck now. I think that is a very powerful strategy if you're interested in that sort of strategy. Just, yeah, seeing... keep an eye out and see if Ajani's Pridemates, Soul Wardens, that kind of stuff, Griffonaries are going late in the packs, and if they are, the strategy's probably open, and it's a powerful one to get in when the lane is open, so... really fun strategy overall. It was nice to play that deck instead of just another Mono Red or Gugar Reanimator every single draft. So, as always at the end of the video, I would like to thank you all so much for watching. If you want to see more of these drafts, you're at the right place. Stick around, just subscribe for more or check out the playlists popping up in the video right now. And if you want to see me play live whenever I've got the extra time, just check out the Twitch channel in the description below. So as always, thank you all for watching, and I will see you again for more Magic Arena tomorrow.